Dear participants, we'll start the session within 5 minutes. Dear participants, good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to day five session of online global faculty advanced development program. I request Benjamin sir to introduce today's speaker. Benjamin sir. Hello, Benjamin sir.
Thank you, Dr. Srinivas. Good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome. The fifth day of Global Advanced Development Program on enhancing scholarly writing, machine learning, and modern tools for article development. Today, our topic will be on publication strategies and opportunities in management and multidisciplinary research. The research person for the day is Dr. Pranav Umesh, Head, Department of Management, Acharya Institute of Graduate Studies, Bangalore. Dr. Pranav is PhD in management with 10 years of experience spanning across corporate, non-profit, and academic institutions. Dr. Pranav is proficient in quantitative and qualitative research methods and accomplished in data analytics, critical thinking, problem solution, effective communication skill, and leadership. Dr. Pranav's technical skills include SPSS, MaxQDA, Orange, Python, machine learning, EDA, data visualization, Power BI. Now, talking about his work experience, Dr. Pranav has worked as independent consultant and business advisor at Restore Earth Solution Private Limited. Dr. Pranav has worked as software engineer at HCL Technologies Bangalore for 2 years from 2010 to 2012. Regarding his research exposure, Dr. Pranav was doctoral research scholar at Sri Satya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, Bangalore from 2016 to 2022. Dr. Pranav was a fellowship scholar at Sri Satya Sai Vidyavahini, Puttaparthi from 2014 to 2015. Now discussing about his certifications, Dr. Pranav holds certificate in Google Advanced Data Analytics, Governing Sustainable Finance ADBI, the A to Z of ESG UDB, Climate Change and Sovereign Risk ADBI, Certified Peer Reviewer course Elsevier, Project Management Principles, Meiji Foundation, Power BI, Tableau 2020. Let us extend a warm welcome to Dr. Pranav as I request him to take over the session. Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Benjamin, for your kind introduction. Very good afternoon to all the participants. Today we'll be discussing how do we select good journals for our publication journey. So let me quickly share my screen. Right. So I'm Dr. Pranav. I'm currently the Associate Professor and Head of the Department of Management, Undergraduate Studies at Acharya Institute of Graduate Studies in Bangalore. So in the past 4 days of our journey with the faculty development program, we have had so much of richness in terms of the research idea coming in from such illustrious members who acted as our resource persons. We started the whole session with an overview of what research, what publication is supposed to be, what scholarly writing is supposed to be about on day one. And on day 2 and 3, we have covered the tools and techniques for data analysis. We did a deep dive into SPSS for statistical analysis, AMOS for the structural equation modeling. And then we had an exciting session on a software called as Orange, which helps you not just with your regular analysis, but also into the machine learning part. Yesterday's session was looking at how do we now integrate AI into research in a world where AI is becoming prevalent. We looked at the ethical components of AI. And to sum up the past 4 days, it's like we are now gearing up to be able to write a paper. We have got those elements in place. And now 2 questions need to be answered. One is, where do I publish? And the second question is, how do I make sure what I write, how do I make sure that I write in a way that the publication goes through in a journal that I desire to publish it in? So that's what we're going to be doing today and tomorrow. Today's session, I will be covering how do we search for good journals? How do we search for legitimate journals, valid journals in an environment where there is a lot of predatory journals out there in the market, and it becomes a little bit key to differentiate between what's true and what's untrue. Tomorrow's session would be dependent on how do we effectively write for publication. So first and foremost, to touch upon the idea of why we publish strategically, I'm introducing this slide because I understand there are students who are part of this. What does publication actually help you with? One, it is your career progression. But I think fundamentally what we value as researchers is that we are creating new knowledge. And now that I have created something, I would like to share it with the world. So dissemination of new knowledge is one of the primary objectives of why we would want to publish articles in itself. Publication in good journals will help us reach the right audience at scale. Then you have the other perks of getting increased citations, better research impact, your institution gets reputation if you're doing good work. And lastly, access to research networks where you can connect with like-minded people and take your research work forward. Now, for the benefit of the students, this is for you to understand that research is an intellectual exercise catering largely to the intellectual curiosity of a person. So a lot of the ideas that we listen to over here is from that background. So let's quickly look at different types of journals, both in core management as well as in the multidisciplinary areas. The first type is the theoretical type of journals. Theoretical journals are largely focused on advancing the conceptual understanding, either by defining something new or refining what is existing, or challenging the existing theories with new findings. Now, these are highly grounded in hardcore research. Uh, so it is not unusual to see new models and new frameworks coming up. I will very quickly present to you some of the top research journals which are considered to be theoretical in nature. So if you look at it, so theoretical journals deal with theory development, theory refinement, conceptual clarification, meta-theoretical work, which go directly into how theories are built and what is the basis on which we are going to be arguing the entire idea of a theory. Integrative reviews, which try to bring in different perspectives from different theories and create some unified models around it. Then you've got normative theories and theoretical commentary. So the top 10 journals, when we look at it from the management side, are your Academy of Management Review, Journal of Management Studies, Organization Studies, so on and so forth. The idea of looking at the top 10 is that at a global scale, these are the journals which are leading uh, in terms of the publication when it comes to the theoretical research work. So if you are looking to develop any sort of theory, or if you're looking to learn good theory, these are the journals that you should ideally be targeting and reading from. It is a dream of most researchers to be able to publish in one of these journals, and understand that these are global top 10, so it's extremely, extremely hard to publish in any of these. So this is the first idea of a theoretical journal. Then we go into the second type, which is called as the empirical journal. Empirical journal looks at data collection, data analysis, and identifying insights. They are more oriented towards application of a theory in a particular area. The focus is more in terms of testing the theory, whether the particular theory holds good in a given context or not. And it is usual, it's quite common to look at pure quantitative, pure qualitative, or even mixed method approach in these aspects. So if you look at empirical journals, I'm leaving you with a list. I'm not going to focus more on the journal names. That is, of course, available to you. What we should be focusing ideally on is what sort of uh, content goes into these type of journals. What do these journals actually look for? So if your research is going to be data based, you have collected through surveys or experiments, or if you're doing case studies, those, or if you're testing a particular theory in a given context, or if you are bringing up a methodological rigor, you're trying to look at different methods, uh, and your emphasis is on the method of doing research. Those are usually published. Your ability to reproduce the results, or at least to a great extent the methodology in different contexts, and your ability to generalize the findings beyond your context. These are largely the areas which empirical journals appreciate and try to publish in. The third type of journal is a practitioner's journal. This is focused more on practitioners in the field, like your policymakers, your managers in the factory, it's in the companies. They are not necessarily going to be sitting and reading an academic journal. They are more interested in how does it relate to me, how does it directly relate to the company or the organization where I'm working from. So the style of writing in these journals are more easy to read, not academically oriented, relatively easy to read, but they are still grounded in solid research. So if you look at some of the big names in this, Harvard Business Review is pretty common. MIT Sloan Management Review, California Management Review, McKinsey Quarterly. These are all some really good journals which publish a practitioner's perspective. So the focus or the audience here is a business practitioner or an executive consultant or a policymaker. And given that they are not academically trained the way a researcher is, the writing style has to be a little more accessible. You cannot use too many jargons, and it has to follow some sort of a narrative story style, which is making it easier for people to read and understand the idea. Then the part, fourth type of journal that we look at is multidisciplinary journals. These journals publish articles which are multidisciplinary in nature, which means that even though I am doing my research in management, I'm also studying something from the economics. I'm borrowing thoughts from economics or psychology or technology, public policy, sustainability, uh, any of the other areas which are not considered core management discipline. So anytime I'm straddling between two or more disciplines, it gets classified under multidisciplinary research. And then these are opening up more exciting avenues to see how different theories get applied in different contexts, how other fields are able to influence the idea of management discipline itself. And as of today, there is a lot of uh, encouragement for researchers to pursue multidisciplinary research. So if you look at the scope, it is looking at an intersection of two or more different fields. Now, these can again be empirical in nature or theoretical in nature. They tend to focus more on the methodological perspective as well, because the methodological rigor becomes the basis or the important aspect when we are looking at multidisciplinary research. And the last type is called as regional journals. Regional journals are usually focused more on a specific region. So, and this regional aspect comes in place because there is something unique about that particular region. Let's say, for example, we are looking at the Indian context. You have got IIM Ahmedabad, IIM Bangalore, IIM Calcutta coming out with their own journals. But at the same time, there is one journal here that says South Asian Journal of Business Studies, whose focus is on South Asian countries and what happens in South Asian countries. Now, if we look at the South Asia and Southeast Asia, about 45 to 50% of the population lives only in this particular region as compared to the rest of the world. So what happens in South Asian markets and Southeast Asian markets is of great interest globally. So there are journals which cover these aspects in depth. If you are doing any research, even within the Indian context, there's still opportunity for you to be able to publish in a journal like South Asian journals. The types of articles again here is mostly empirical conceptual case studies. The different methods and different techniques are accepted in these journals here. So with those types of journals set in place, let us understand how high impact factor journals are identified. So before we dive into this, let us understand what we are looking for when we say there is a quality. The whole debate starts with the idea of understanding which is a good journal for me to publish my article in. So there are different metrics that get used, one of which is your schemago, which is called as your journal ranking, which is backed by Scopus. Second is your Web of Science. And lastly, you have got Scopus' own index. Scopus itself will be doing some bit of ranking and assessment in terms of trying to promote and push the idea of these journals being good journals and the rest of them be a little wary of it. So the metrics that are largely used are your impact factor, site score, H index, and we will do a small deep dive into this aspect as well. So if you were to understand the journal ranking metrics, we look at something called SJR. SJR by far is one of the best journal ranking techniques that is available. It uses a comprehensive score generation system. It is backed by Elsevier, which owns the Scopus database as well. And what it looks at is the prestige of citations. So how good, so if when other people's are, when other papers are citing your article, how good are those citations in themselves? Where are those articles getting published? It takes into account those aspects as well. A little less than that is the idea of site score, which is again by Scopus, which looks at the past 4 years of data and tries to understand how many citations every document has generated. So site score is more at a document level. Then you have got the journal impact factor, which is an offering by the Web of Science. Web of Science and Scopus as of today are the two large players in the market, not the only two, but two large. These are aggregators. They are more like databases. They help you access a lot of journals and a lot of articles from a lot of journals. Web of Science again looks at the average citations, but it takes it over the past 2 years, not the entire 4 years part. Eigenfactor score is available, which looks at the journal's influence, like your Google's page rank, how well it is happening. Then you have something called a source normalized impact per paper, which is helping the researchers try to get a normalized understanding of the quality of journals. So if I compare a management journal with, say, a physics journal from how do I understand the quality? I have to normalize these two scores. For most part, we don't get into many of these aspects, but SJR is a good starting point for us. Then there are other lists such as your Australian Business Deans Council list, your ABS journal list, which can help you shortlist some good quality journals for your discipline, for your specific area. You've got once you are through with certain idea, definitely it is necessary that you look at what is the aim and scope of the journals. In most of the journals, it is declared that the journal is accepting theoretical papers only, or the journal accepts empirical papers only. So, and such journals, if you're trying to send for an empirical journal, if you're trying to send a theoretical work, there is a very high chance that they will reject it. Which we understand as editorial rejection or as a desk rejection, because it doesn't fit into the aim and scope of that particular journal. So it is important that we do not have a mismatch between our article and the journal itself. And the last part is to avoid a mismatch with the journal audience. So this gets a little bit tricky because it's not really easy to understand which journal is catering to what audience. Sometimes the journals specify, sometimes they don't. One of the articles which I was writing for my research, I had submitted it to a journal called Business Ethics European Review, in short BEER. Now, when I submitted that, my study was in the Indian context, but the journal accepts articles for the Western European market specifically. That was an information that I had not found on their website at the time when I was submitting the article. So what I received as a feedback from the editors, it had gone to the review stage as well. What I received as feedback from the editor was to contextualize my research for the Western European market, their readership. Now, that may or may not be possible for us to do many of the times, but it was a great learning for me to say that journal audience and my deliverable can get into a mismatch, something that we need to avoid. To the extent possible, how do we address this issue is we write to the editor and we ask them, would they be open or willing to accept articles which are in the Indian context, or given their what is their journal audience and how do we tailor make, if at all we need to take it forward. Now, when we look at the publication process, since we are talking about how do we publish in good journals, there is a idea. This is just as a checklist. So we started with the idea of how do we choose the right journal. Then we follow a specific format called as IMRAD, Introduction, Methodology, Research and Discussion Structure. More on this could probably get discussed in tomorrow's session. It's critical that we write a compelling abstract and title, and I will shortly show you why this is necessary and how this can help you in your journey towards identifying the right journals for your paper. Uh, Preparing a strong cover letter can help the editors understand upfront what is your paper going to be about, how is it going to add value to their journal, and increase your chances of pushing your paper beyond the editorial desk to the review stage. And lastly, it's important to note that no matter how well we have done research, somebody else is reading it. Sometimes they read it from their perspective. Sometimes they read it with a different worldview. So revisions and resubmissions are to be expected in terms of the journals, in terms of journal submissions. This is quite common. This is likely to happen with about 90-95% of the papers that we write. Okay. Then we move on to something called as open access publishing. Now, in general, the space of public academic publishing is again uh, a commercial venture as well for most of the journals. So the journal is spending a lot of time, energy, and effort in ensuring that the research that has been conducted by a person, by a researcher, is reaching out to the right audience, for which they have to spend a lot of amount on both infrastructure as well as other resources. So journals usually put all these articles behind what is called as a paywall, or essentially they want you to purchase a particular article, even though you as a researcher own the copyright for this particular article. And sometimes you do a you usually do a copyright transfer of that when your article is accepted. The journal journal usually charges an amount to a researcher or to any person, to their audience, to be able to access that particular article and read it in complete. That is the ethical way of approaching the situation. A side note on this is where we look at databases like ProQuest or EBSCO, for which you have institutional subscriptions, where the institution has already paid for a certain collection to be made available free of cost for the institution's employees. So we are not paying for it, but the institution is paying for it. In one way or the other, the payment is happening. That's the right ethical way of looking at it. However, understanding the idea that there could be other reasons where I don't want to wait for my publication to come out. For example, if I am working on cutting edge research, I want to put my paper in print before the competitor does. In that scenario, or I just want to increase the reach, increase my visibility and reach of my findings to a large group of people as early as possible. In those conditions, as examples, we have another model of publication which is called as open access. Now, open access in normal terms provides easy access to all the people who want to access it. These papers are not locked behind a paywall. These are papers that you will be able to download in complete, in full PDF form, for which you don't have to pay anything. However, the catch is that whenever there is an open access publishing, you as the author or the institution should be paying a particular sum to publish it as open access, because that's a revenue loss for the journal, and therefore they charge the author or the institution for which the author is representing. Now, when we look at open access publishing, there are three different categories that we come across. One is called as the gold open access, which is available directly on the publisher's website itself. And for this, there will be an article processing charge. Even though we publish it, the author usually retains the copyright, and it is licensed under Creative Commons, which is freely available to use with appropriate attributions. The second type is called as the green open access, where there's no cost to the author as it is, but then it allows you to do a preprint or a postprint. It allows you to post it at your end as a preprint or a postprint without violating the norms. However, there is usually a cool-off period of about 6 months to 12 months for the journal to be able to generate some revenue before you make your paper accessible worldwide for free of charge. And then there is a third aspect which is called as the hybrid. Now, hybrid is where you get an option whether you want to publish open access or not. Most journals will offer you this particular option where you can decide whether your article, your manuscript that you're submitting to the journal, should it be behind a paywall or would you want to make it open access? So the same journal can provide both formats. If you choose to go ahead with the open access part, there is still an article processing charge, and the regulations or the norms of the gold open access will be applicable to all of these articles. Okay. So when you are approaching how to write good papers, you have got options available in terms of partnering with industries or NGOs and government bodies. There is something called as special issues which come out time and again, for which you can target specific articles which are suitable for those special issues. They are relatively easier to publish in as compared to the general way of looking at the journal articles. Use different platforms. ResearchGate is a good platform if you're seeking to connect with like-minded researchers and follow up with research from different parts of the world. And we also spoke about interdisciplinary journals in general. And the last part that we look at is the ethical publishing practice. So anytime we are citing, anytime we are using some material from research journals, conference papers, it is essential that we give due credit to the authors and the contributors to that particular of that particular paper. We ideally should be avoiding any sort of plagiarism and data fabrication. No necessity for me to go into details. Turnitin helps us understand if unintentionally we have ended up doing a plagiarism or not. Grammarly helps you write better. There are so many tools now with AI tools which can help you navigate this particular aspect. Then there is something called as Committee on Publication Ethics, which helps you understand how to maintain research integrity. So in sensitive matters, like if we are doing healthcare research, it is necessary to obtain informed consent from the participants. Even with some of the sensitive areas for us, when we are doing interviews, it's always better to tell and obtain the informed consent from the participants, stating that your interview is going to be recorded on audio or video and subsequently transcribed, and you should be willing to participate in the entire research program. How do we avoid predatory journals? There are two lists that came out. One is called as Biol's list and the other is Cabell's. Biol's list is not very active anymore, but Cabell's is available. If a particular journal is listed under Cabell's list, Cabell came out with two lists. One is a list of predatory journals, one is a whitelist journals. If your journal is in the whitelist journal, you don't have to worry about it. You can go ahead and publish in those journals. If at any point you are doubtful, you can look at Cabell's predatory journals list, which raises suspicion. It's not that those are definitely predatory, not necessarily all are definitely predatory, but it at least raises some suspicion because of certain activity that they have found with the journal's way of working or the journal's frequency of publishing or the article quality, that it is hinting or it is indicating that some of these journals could be predatory in nature. Does it mean that Cabell's is an exhaustive list and does it cover every journal in the planet? No, it does not. As of now, there are roughly, it's estimated that we have about 45 to 50,000 journals, academic journals across disciplines in the world. Cabell's is probably looking at about 15 to 20,000 of them. So we have to be alert to how predatory journals can be detected. And we will see a very short introduction on that as well post the presentation. The fundamental idea being, the more alert and aware we are as researchers, the less is our chance in submitting our articles to predatory journals, which in turn harm our reputation in the long run as researchers. So let's come back to this after we finish with some hands-on activity in this particular area. Give me one moment. All right. So let's start with the idea of understanding journal ranking, journal and country ranking. How do I use SJR to be able to come up with good journals in my particular area or my country? The default setting here is of journal ranking. This is called Schemago JR, Schemago Journal Ranking website. So if you type SJR in Google, it will lead you to this particular website. You choose your particular discipline. So I'm going ahead with business management and accounting. And within business management and accounting, if I want to narrow down further, let us say I want to look at marketing, but I'm open to it globally. So we look at that there are 224 journals that are available in this particular aspect. I want to narrow it down further. Let's say that I just want to look at it in the Asiatic region. And I want to look at only journals. So now I have got 10 journals in the Asiatic region which publish in marketing, which are considered to be good. So these are journal ranking. In that you have got Foreign Trade Review, which is an Indian journal. You have got something from Singapore, you have got something from other countries, you have got South Korean journals, 2 of them are South Korean journals. So we have got the 10 journals. Now, here are a couple of things that we can observe. We have got the SJR ranking. This is sorted in descending order right now. Q2, Q3, Q4, which we are used to hearing about, are essentially hinting at this particular aspect of the journal ranking. These are quartile 2, quartile 3, quartile 4. The H index for this particular journal is essentially how many articles were published. So we have to understand what is H index. H index basically says that if I have X number of articles, it is X number of articles which have been cited X number of times, both X's remaining the same. So if I have 20 articles in my issue this time, 20 articles were submitted 20 times. At an individual author level, it would have become 20 articles of mine have been cited 20 times at least. Then I have an H index of 20. 2 articles of mine are cited twice each. Then it is a H index of 2. So in that sense, you also have an H index for the journals. So this is one part that you can look at. But the journal ranking or the quality itself, it is giving a particular score. It will also tell you how many citations per document have been received in the past 2 years, past 3 years, past 4 years. So you get an understanding of how active these journals are, or how many people are referring to these particular journals when they are searching for good literature to be published or to be referred to. The other part that we can observe in this is that there are many of these journals which have got an open lock symbol. Open lock symbol talks about open access. So these are journals which will help you publish in an open access pathway as well, if not purely. So you can use this, you can look at book series, you can look at good conference proceedings if there are any available. So across the region in terms of book series, there is contribution to management science and advances in business marketing and purchasing, which is available. This is at a global level. Conference proceedings, you can have a look at. So this field offers you, this particular website offers you a way to assess which are the good journals in my particular area. If I go with something, say strategy and management, the advantage is I can also download this particular data. If I look at the journals, and there are 487 journals across the countries, I can download this data and then filter through the journal list to see which ones suit me, which ones do not suit me. I want to know more about this particular journal. I can go to the particular website of the journal. So from here, it helps me navigate to that publisher's website. Academy of Management is publishing Academy of Management Review, and these are this is the classification under the subject area. I can go to the subject website. I can go and check what is the quality of the journal and who's been publishing. It also tells you something important in terms of coverage. So historically, how has this particular journal been covered under the SJR, under Schemago? Now, if you find when you are searching for journals, if you're looking for journals in the Q4, this becomes important because there could be journals in Scopus which are not currently covered. They would have discontinued the coverage for various reasons. Sometimes it's a question of paying to the Scopus database. Sometimes it's a question of not meeting with the requirements of Scopus. Or sometimes it's just that the journal has got hijacked, somebody else has taken over that particular journal and it has lost its core focus. So this becomes an important factor to keep an eye on, whether the journal is currently covered or not at the time of my publication, and whether it is having a history of being covered under the database. So as it goes with Academy of Management Review, it has been covered since 1996 till 2025. And we can have faith that it will continue to remain covered by these places. It also shows you the similar journals that you can look at. So if I have one, I can look at the next few of them to understand where else I can publish my particular work. And then it gives you a whole lot of metrics and analytics in terms of how the journal has been performing. So this is what Schemago does. Let's go on to just looking at how Scopus will help us understand quite a few of these aspects. Now, in our current journey as academicians, we are required to publish in Scopus or Web of Science indexed journals. So this is important for us to know how are we going to be able to do this. So I come to the Scopus website, I click on the sources part, it brings me to this particular web page. Here again, I use the identifier as a subject area, and I go into let's say business management and accounting, in which very specifically I want to look at general business management and accounting. So again, I have got 353 results, which are under the Scopus list. You can download the Scopus list here as well for your specific areas if you want to. It gives you what is called as a site score. So site score is the method it simply says how actively the audience is searching for the journals and then referring to these journals when it comes to research. You can look at both ways. You can rank it higher, you can rank it lower. And if you want to look at something specific in, say, airline business, somebody was doing something on aviation. Here, if you come, it says airline business was covered from 1996 to 2018. It has been discontinued in Scopus. So if at all you are planning to publish, and this is one of the journals that catches your attention, you have done some research in the airline industry and you would like to publish it somewhere. If this journal you come across, please check their coverage in the Scopus website before you proceed further. So that's your Scopus list. Similar would be Web of Science, but what I want to show you with Web of Science is something else. This is called as Journal Finder. So now let us move into the area or the idea of understanding, okay, fine, I know and I understand that this is how I want to search for journals, but I have written an article and now I want to see where does my article actually fit. So both Scopus and Web of Science have got this feature. I'm showing it to you in Web of Science because it helps us become a little more familiar with this particular website. There is an option called as match manuscript. Okay, give me 1 second. Sorry, just give me 1 second. So let's share this now. So once you create a login, you can also log in using your ORCID or your ORCID ORCID or Google or your institution login if you have it. This is the window that you see when you click on match manuscript. It says it's a manuscript matcher. Now, what it does is that it looks at your title and your abstract before it is able to give you some suggestions. So let's just have a look at how that works. I'm going to pick up something that I had worked on before, just to see on a hypothetical basis where it leads us to. So I'm presenting my title here and the abstract that I had submitted. So I have now just done a copy paste of the title as well as the abstract, and I just have to click find journals. It is first of all matching it on the basis, sorting it on the basis of match score, not the titles of the journals themselves. What it also shows you is what are the matching keywords that were used to identify the journal list that it is going to show us. And it has searched across Science Citation Index Expanded, Social Science Citation Index, Arts and Humanities, as well as Emerging Sources Citation Index, all of which you can remove or include based on your requirements. For some reason, it says that Chinese Journal of Chemical Engineering is probably a very good match. We will have to look at why this is so. Maybe if we look into the content of this particular journal, we will start understanding why this particular part has come. But if we look at the idea that it is throwing up something relevant called as sustainability. Sustainability is handled by MDPI. Sustainability is a pure open source journal, and sustainability will publish articles on diversity, equity, and inclusion, because that's part and parcel of your social pillar under sustainability right now. Same thing, if you look at, you've got social change, which is coming up, Journal of Business Research, which would probably be accepting this. So there is some level or some understanding of the articles that can go in. This can also help you shortlist some of the good journals that you would be able to publish in. We can experiment this. I would actually encourage all of you to maybe take the next 5 minutes, go to Clarivate, mjl.clarivate.com, the website that is available over here, and then maybe just provide a title and an abstract and see whether you are able to find some of the good journals. The only catch is it can give you the journals which are indexed by Web of Science, not necessarily with Scopus. So you may want to try it with, say, Elsevier's Journal Finder and your Web of Science Journal Finder to create the list of journals where your work could get accepted. This would help you with a good starting point. And this is the reason why we were discussing sometime back during the presentation that writing the title and the abstract clearly is of critical importance, because once those two are available with me, I can put it over here and then ask Web of Science or Elsevier to recommend the journals that are likely to accept my work. So let's just do that. Maybe we'll take 5 minutes time, and then we will just work it out as a hands-on approach. And let's hear your thoughts on the chat box.
Sir, there is a query, sir, in chat box.
There is a filter here on the side which says open access. Uh, in general, it does not, uh, it includes everything, but if I want to look at only open access, I can check box this part and it will only generate those which are publishing open access for me. Otherwise, it usually looks at a hybrid model. Uh, this switch over here on the left is to toggle between a hybrid journal as well as pure open access journal. So these open access journals are listed in a place called Directory of Open Access Journals. So DOAJ is something that we may come across. You can also go there and you can check which are the good journals where you can publish open access articles. So does that answer your question, sir? So there are a lot of filters over here. You can specify each of them depending on how you would want to do that. Just searching for another paper so that we can see how that goes.
So there is one more query, sir.
Yes. So open access journals, the idea of publishing in open access journals is if you want higher visibility for our research work, or if you want to disseminate that knowledge quickly. So in highly competitive areas, it makes sense sometimes to publish open access so that the reach is higher and it creates that record that we have been pioneers in this field or if you want rapid development of a particular solution, so that sharing of information becomes quick. Globally, research is happening. So what happened in during COVID time is that most of the research, in fact, almost all of the research that was done in terms of finding a cure for COVID was made open access by governments themselves. They did not put an article charge. All the journals also gave that particular cure or the solution that people were trying to find as open access to everybody, because they wanted to push and promote the finding of a solution fast when COVID was happening. That helped researchers really pick up on the work and the progress that others had made and accelerate the process of finding those cures. When it is not that sort of a crisis situation, it could just be in terms of visibility, getting a higher citation, getting a higher ranking. When institutions are looking at building their research portfolio or their research strength, the number of citations, number of publications, if they want to increase, it could help to some extent in that particular area. But if that is not a priority, I would suggest for most individuals, it becomes actually very, very expensive. In what I have observed, uh, roughly, a journal charges the article processing charge for about 90 to 100 article downloads from an individual or the institution which is sponsoring, if you try to publish open access. So if there is an article which is pegged at $30 per view, and if you want to publish open access in that, they might charge you somewhere around $2,800 or $3,000 to make it open access. It seems to be more of a thumb rule. I'm not saying that's an actual metric, but practice that is generally followed by the journals. Now, $3,000 may become too expensive for an individual. So most of us would probably end up opting for the traditional way of publishing. But if the priority of the institution or the researcher to reach out to a lot of people and make their uh, research accessible to a lot of people at a very short time, then open access makes sense. Yes, sir. Sustainability by MDPI is one of the more expensive open access journals that I have also come across. Okay, if we are done with that, then let me quickly open another dimension to this. Okay, let's just have a quick look at what the various metrics are supposed to do. So when we are selecting different journals, this is how you can go about understanding the quality of the journal that you are publishing in. These are all at journal level. These are all at author level, and then there are last two or three which can work both in author and article side. So on the journal side, I will be leaving you with this particular handout so you can keep it as a reference document whenever you are in need. H-index is what authors are after when you are looking at establishing yourself as a researcher, or you want to state that you are a good researcher who has been doing quite a lot of good research. H-index is what comes into place. This is widely accepted. Scopus, Google Scholar, Web of Science, all of them can give you a source on this particular aspect. When it comes to journals, it is largely journal ranking or site score or impact factor. Impact factor is by Web of Science. Site score is by Scopus. So this is roughly where you look at the quality of the journals themselves. We did not touch upon one more part. Let's also have a look at that. Oh, okay. So this is Cabell's website. You can come here. It publishes two different types, journal, academic and predatory reports. Now, the understanding is that Cabell's is a paid list. So it is not very easy for us to assess which is a good quality, which is a bad quality, because we don't necessarily get access to this particular database directly. Institutions would have to subscribe for this particular list and then see whether it is getting indexed. What do I do if I am not sure in terms of whether it's a good journal or a bad journal? The starting point that is recommended is not the journal's website. The starting point that is recommended is you go to Scopus or you go to Web of Science. Start over there, look at ABDC journal list, look at ABS, look at any of the trusted sources where journals are indexed. Where do I find the indexing? Let us look at a journal and it shows you. So this is how you would have to probably try and triangulate the idea of verifying whether it's a good journal or not. So if we come to this particular website, let's say for various reasons, we were looking for a particular journal to publish in and we land up over here. So here you would look at a lot of information that is already getting published and provided by the journal itself. On one side, you have got something called as about the journal. So it tells you everything from aim and scope, featured articles, sample article, where are they getting published, what type of things do they publish. So it talks already about interdisciplinary coverage, which means if you are looking at a multidisciplinary work, this is one journal that you can definitely target. What do they focus on? Which are the top downloaded, top cited articles? It provides you a lot of information about these aspects. But it also tells you on the top. So if you look at this part, it tells you on the top what is my indexing and metric. Here, the journal claims that it is part of Scopus and it is also part of Web of Science. So use this information, go back to Scopus and Web of Science, try putting in the name of the journal over there and see whether that database also reflects what is being shown here. That is one. Second thing is look at the coverage, whether Scopus or Web of Science is currently covering this particular journal as part of their indexing. Or if they've stopped covering it for quite some time, in which case be a little wary about this part. While we are on this particular page, also look at one more aspect called as call for papers and news. So here, if you look at it, right now they do not have a call for papers, but Emerald Publishing Group in general has got a lot of journals under its coverage. So if you come across one of the journals, you would find that there is a call for papers here, which is closing on June 29th, according to this, and it's on this particular area. So you could look at various things. So there is one more which is going to close at the end of this year, Business Process Technology Innovation Trends and Future Direction. Now, if you are going to come across this part, go to this particular website, look at what is it that they are asking for, and then you could probably think of starting your research in this particular area if you want to do, or if you generally work in this particular area, this is a good place where you can publish a manuscript. The chances of a manuscript getting accepted is slightly better um, in journals where you have got a call for paper, because they are specifically looking for these areas and they're specifically looking for these types of articles to come in over there. And then, of course, there is a lot of the other information that comes into place on how do you go about doing this. So that, by and large, from my side, covers what is this that we are looking for when we say we have to identify good journals, high impact factor journals, and how do we sort of navigate in an environment where there are a lot of predatory journals. How can we navigate and ensure that we are not getting stuck with those? I am now open to questions. Today's session has been relatively small. It's not a very intense thing. I would strongly encourage that you go and experiment what we have been seeing here. Because when you start experimenting, you start understanding the nuances of being able to filter these lists. How do I download this? How do I shortlist? How do I go back and ensure? So there are a lot of these journals which say International Journal of Engineering, Science and Technology, where you would find a very uh, uh, different sort of a landing page itself. So how do I really understand whether it is indexed or not, whether it's a predatory journal or not? Those are things that I think with practice and with a little bit of research online, we will get to see whether it's good or whether it's not good. One part that I have observed in many of the predatory journals is that they upfront ask you, pay me 2,000 rupees and I will publish your article in less than 2 days. There is no peer review process. They claim that there is a peer review process. There's no peer review process that happens. They usually promise you fast publishing, low cost, low article processing charges. General tendency of a predatory journal. So best to avoid these because they don't add value to us as researchers in any sense. But anyway, we do have these lists and these databases available to us to go back and verify whether these are legitimate journals or not. So I believe that's where we can start our journey in terms of identifying journals. I am open to questions. I'm open to helping you find the next part. If you want me to go back and repeat anything, we are open to having that discussion as well.
Dear participants, if you have any doubts, you can ask. Sir, there is a query, sir.
Yes.
How to identify a cloned journal?
So clone journals, one, you have to look at the website where it is coming from. If it is giving you any website that you find slightly suspicious, and they will always be playing around with the website. If there is a lot of redirection happening with the website, that could lead to the idea that it could be a clone journal. That is one. Second thing is look at what the journal's language is supposed to be. It is, they are not going to be able to clone every single aspect. By and large, we should be able to detect something. Look into the details of how the journal acts. Say, for example, that your journal is indexed by Emerald Publishing. Your journal is owned by Emerald Publishing. They are the publishers over there. For me, I can recreate the entire font and format, the color scheme, everything. But then in some place where the idea of cloning a journal is because I want to make money out of it. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother putting in that much effort. So when it comes to that article processing charge, look at what these people are telling. So if you understand that this journal is supposed to be a US journal or a UK journal, they would have to quote you in pounds, not in rupees. And if it's a clone that is happening from an Indian market, that's a telltale sign that something is going wrong. They would expect you to pay in dollars or in the current in a different currency. That's how these journals normally work. So that's one place that you can identify. Look into the details. Look into the editorial team. If you are able to flag it, please do report it to the journal or the publisher saying that there is a clone journal. This is a particular website where I have come across this part. At any point, if you are still doubtful about something, if you feel something is off, directly write to the editor of the journal and start asking. That's one of the surest way of knowing that you don't get caught up in the clone journals as such. So far as I know, most of the clone journals will have a lot of telltale signs right from the beginning. So it takes about 10 minutes time for us to just sit and explore into the details. As Goes was saying, the devil is in the details. So search for the devil. You will find it over there.
Vijayashree, ma'am.
Nice, sir. So thank you for the nice presentation, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, I have one doubt.
Yes.
Sir, if we send one article to one journal, suppose that our journal has accepted the article
Okay.
and it has asked for the article processing charges, we have paid for that.
Okay.
After payment, the journal got delisted in the Scopus. So how
Mhm.
to avoid this type of problems, sir?
Okay. One part is this again usually goes if there is a university norm about this, we will have to check the institutional norms, we have to check their guidelines. But the general understanding is that at the time of publishing, was your journal accepted and listed in Scopus or not? This fluctuation can occur for any number of reasons. It is not that your journal is bad, therefore they got delisted from Scopus or the Scopus coverage ended. Scopus is also a database. Scopus also takes a processing charge from the journals to be able to list them, to be able to track their quality. So if the journal has not renewed its membership with Scopus, it can just, its coverage will end. That's why it does not call it as delisting. It calls it as coverage is not active at this point. So when you publish the article, was your coverage active or not is one question that you would have to look at. More
It was active,
importantly,
sir.
sorry?
It was active, sir.
Yeah, so keep your records in that because the Scopus tells you that the coverage is from so and so year to so and so year. And in your article, you have got your publication year anyway. All right. So it tells you this particular volume, this particular issue, this particular year. That should be sufficient as an evidence to say that I had published in the Scopus index journal. For whatever reason, the journal decided not to move ahead with this particular part. It could also happen that much later they may go back and renew their membership. So coverage is not necessarily something that I would personally worry about. However, if my bigger worry would be whenever you're looking at the article processing charge, unless you are paying the article processing charge to publish in open access, most journals don't charge even 1 rupee for it because they collect that amount from the reader. They don't require you to pay for that article to publish. So if at all a journal is asking you for an article processing charge, please go back and re-verify whether things are in the right order. That would be my suggestion on that.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Dr. Sai Prashant has a question.
Yes, sir. Sai Prashant, sir, please respond. Hello, sir.
Okay. There is one request on the chat box asking for some good journals related to HRM. Sir, let's just do it together if that's okay with you. Let me present my screen and then let's search it out together. So you come to search journals. I'm looking at Clarivate Analytics. This is Web of Science, right? And you can directly look at human resource management. If you have a very specific uh, area of human resource management that you want to search, please add those keywords and search. Now, it will already give you a list. So if you see that there are 3,877 matches that have come for human resource management. These are all various journals that will show up, which are publishing in the area of HRM. There will be journals like this, the Essay Journal of Human Resource Management, which clearly puts a label here called open access, which means they probably largely publish only open access. They don't publish the hybrid version at all. So you can look at this part, you can add a few more filters and you can download this list. This is one part that you can look at. The second thing that you can do is you can go to Scopus, do the exact same search. It will allow you to download that list as well. What you will find is that there is going to be commonality between Scopus and Web of Science results again, because many of these journals are indexed in both these databases. So put it into Excel as a CSV file. It allows you to download as a CSV file. Put it into your Excel sheet and remove all the duplicates. You will find your master list of HRM. But again, HRM becomes too vast. So if you want to narrow it down further, that's something that you should be able to explore based on what areas of research you are looking at. If you want to further narrow it down, I want to publish in a relatively easy one, which is indexed in Web of Science. What is an equivalent of a Q4 for me here? Slightly difficult, but one starting point is if you are looking at emerging sources citation index. These are emerging journals which do not have sufficient impact factor yet or sufficient number of articles. But the process or the mechanism with which the journal is uh, been accepting articles and processing articles is found to be good, sound, valid. And therefore, Web of Science would have indexed these journals at this point. They will have a time period in terms of 3 years or 5 years, by which time the journal matures to a certain extent, and then they get into a social science citation index. These are social science citation index is more established. These are more for emerging journals. So sometimes when you send an article to say social science citation index, and if your article is getting rejected, it is not unusual to hear back from the publishers or Web of Science team who will start suggesting other journals on the basis of what your abstract and title are. And many of these could go back into your emerging sources citation index as well. So that is something else that you can bear in mind and see how this could help you with your research publication journey.
Sir, Sai Prasad, sir, please respond. Dear participants, if you have any doubts, you can ask.
So just addition of a couple of filters narrows down from 3,800 to 38. These are all Indian journals which publish in the Indian context specific to HR. You can refer to a journal of this nature. It is also possible, um, just an added thought, it is also possible that you may not find many of the good journals in Scopus or Web of Science as far as the choice of the journal goes. Uh, Not necessarily that only Scopus and Web of Science journals are good. There are lots of other journals. There are a lot of other publishers who publish articles in who publish journals where it's good if you are able to publish even in those journals. And I know one of Inter Science publishers who have got one journal called International Journal of Indian Culture and Business Management. Not indexed in Scopus, but it's otherwise a very good journal to publish in. Scopus journals which are fast in publishing in HRMA area. Interesting question, and I understand the uh, difficulty in retaining the patience when it comes to the publication game. I am a victim of that myself. The idea of fast publishing is you will only get to see it when you go through the journal's page. Now, journal has got different metrics. One they say is submission to first response. They put it in terms of days, usually around 8 days, 10 days, 15 days, 20 days. It differs from journal to journal. Submission of manuscript to revision could be around 200 days on an average. Some are able to do it faster. Some are going to do it really slow. Extremely good journals, like if you're looking at the top 50, top 100 to publish in, they're going to be slow because they have a lot of people sending a lot of articles, and it takes time and effort for them to review, send for revision, and see whether the revised manuscripts are worthy of publishing or not. If these are emerging journals, then you have a faster rate, which is possible. If the journals usually publish more frequently, monthly or once in 2 months, once in a quarter or something, you could expect a slightly faster response on that. But the journals normally show these metrics on their website itself. So that is something that you would have to look at. From my understanding so far, I have never seen a journal that is able to publish any article in 2 days. If they are publishing something in 2 days, then they are definitely not doing any sort of review of your article. Uh, with almost 100% confidence, I can tell you that's a predatory journal that is running it. Scopus journals, unless they are open access, the traditional publishing does not require you to spend any money at all. This is true for most of the journals that I have come across. So I would say don't worry about the idea of an article processing fee. From all of my studies so far, article processing fee comes in only when you are trying to publish open access. Most of the journals don't ask you to pay any money because they recover that amount from the reader when they have published that issue. And if your title and abstract are made available to the person, if somebody is excited reading your title and the abstract, they may want to read your full paper, they would have to pay for that article. So from that perspective, I think the question is more at no cost rather than low cost. Article processing charges, if you are looking at open access, you will have to look at it from journal to journal. Each journal would probably show you a different charge.
Any participants, any other doubt? Prashant Verma, Sai Prashant sir?
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. Is my voice audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sorry, there was a technical glitch. I could not speak last time. My
Yes, sir.
question is, see, after publication, as you said, there was a lady who asked, what do you say, if the corpus indexing is delisted. Even suppose in the month of December, there was a journal called Cohesion Management where my article was published, but the publication was delisted in January 25. December 24, it had its listing and it got published.
Okay.
But in January, it was delisted.
Okay.
And after publishing, they could not generate me the DOI.
Okay.
So basically, after delisting, when my publication was in December 24th, they have to generate the DOI, no, sir.
Um, your question is how do you generate the DOI for that article?
Basically, when they have verified and given me the consent of publication and everything in the month of December, after a review and everything, my article doesn't, DO is not generated yet. I've been texting them and sending the mails regarding this issue.
Okay.
Without the generation of DOI, the authentication of the article is in queue.
Could be a problem. Yes, sir. I understand. But the DOI, if the journal is delisted or if say the journal is shut down, I think the option is always available that we send our article to a different journal itself. So you as an
Okay.
author will have the right to withdraw your article from a journal until I've not tried this, sir. I'm not able to give you a very definitive answer on this. But whenever it is that we are not hearing from the reviewers or the editors, it is possible for us to withdraw the paper. At the same time,
Got
I
it.
think it could be possible that even though it is published, and if you want to retract your paper, maybe I've never tried this out, nor have I come across. But if you're not happy with the journal, why don't you just write to them and ask them if there is a possibility to retract
Yeah.
it? For various ethical reasons, the papers are retracted from the journals. So I think as
Okay,
an
got it.
author option also we could try it out and maybe send it to a different journal which is currently active.
Okay. Okay, sir, I'll try this.
I'm also not sure, Sushil, because this is a very
Yeah,
interesting question to have
Yes,
asked.
sir. Yeah. No. And this is what I faced recently because my previous articles I never had such issue. So this
Right,
was such of issue I faced recently.
right.
So I was not in I was in a queue because it's not only me. There are other colleagues and friends who are just dependent on me, research scholars. They say they join us, we work together, and when we so what happens is they depend on me, and I'm not able to answer them actually.
Yeah, I understand, sir. It becomes difficult.
Yeah, because nowadays the research scholars are anywhere. See, after I have completed my research 5 years back, so just I'm trying to focus on my articles and just enhance my writing skills. But really, your session is really very interactive and very useful. Even though we have published articles, but you have given us right guidance. Even many of them who are in the what is a registered members, I think they might have also known various aspects of publications.
Happy to help, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, there are two queries, sir. Uh, sir.
I think Dr. Ganesh has a
No, sir.
point that without DOI also we
Sorry.
can publish papers. So maybe that could be the answer to you, sir, Dr. Sai Prashant. There is one question on understanding Q1, Q2, Q3 journals. So Q1, Q2, Q3 is just a ranking which is provided by the SJR, the Schemago Journal Ranking System. They are ranking all the journals and then they are looking at 4 quartiles. So Q4 is the lowest quartile, Q1 is the top quartile, and then they are just looking at which journals fall into the top 25%, the second 25%, third 25%, and the bottom list, which makes in that particular category. So Q4 is considered to be of the lower quality as compared to Q1. That's the understanding on that front, sir. Any specific details you want on that? I would be happy to get into SJR's part.
Sir, please respond.
Sir?
Yes, sir, audible, sir. Please.
Pranav, sir? Pranav, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Compared to Q3 journal, Q1 is highly impactful, sir.
So Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 is only quartiles. So they have ranked the journals.
Okay.
Let us say you have 100 journals. They have ranked these journals from 1 to 100. And they are saying the top 25% is called Q1.
Is there any difference between publishing the, sir, is there any difference between publishing the Q1 journal or Q3 journal? What is the impact factor, which is more impact factor in the journals?
If you are able to publish in a Q1 journal, certainly it says that the quality of your work is really, really good. Because the journal categorized under Q1, the top 25% in that particular category is accepting your work. So your work quality is considered to be really high if you are publishing in Q1. If it is in Q4, it is not that it's very bad, it's just that we always have scope for more improvement and we have to be able to devote that much amount of time as researchers.
Sir, I also facing the problem related to Q4 and Q2. Basing on the price also, somewhat difference is there. Is there any some manufacturing is there, some manipulation is there? I'm not getting the right information for that.
Sorry, sir, I couldn't get your question, sir.
Sir, but what my question is the for the Q4 journal and Q1 journal, the price may be different, sir. Accepting the query, while receiving while accepting the article, they are charging more price compared to Q4. Some
Sure.
of the journals.
Okay. I would like to look into that aspect of journals which are charging you an article processing fee, even when they are going to put it behind a paywall. This is something that we have been discussing, sir. If you're publishing in the traditional conventional method, normally you are not required to pay anything. But there could be journals which are asking money from the institution or the author, as well as charging the money to a reader. That model could exist. I'm not discounting that part. However, if you are not publishing open access, ideally there should be no article processing charges. Whether it is Q1 or Q4, it shouldn't matter. Now, if it's a question of publishing in open access, yes, it is possible that the journal would have set a particular price for how much revenue they look for. So Q1 journal may charge you higher amount because they expect that more people are going to refer to your article, more people are going to cite your article, and that's the amount of revenue loss they want to offset. Like they want to just make sure that they have not completely lost out on the revenue that they would have generated by hosting your article in the traditional manner behind a paywall. So if it's that comparison, there is a possibility, yes, there could be a difference between how Q4 and Q1 would probably look at that.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. So you had, there is a question that says, to what extent does the position of an author, third, fourth, fifth, contribute to their value or recognition in research publication? As a general idea, I am not I'm not really particular about the kind of work that we are discussing over here. If it's a very complex work, definitely third, fourth, and fifth author contribution could add value. For example, if you are going to look at a multinational study of a particular sustainable development goal, you want to do a study between what's happening in India, what's happening in Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, Indonesia. Now, your role sitting in India as the person who has ideated this entire study and as a person who is going to write the entire paper, you might be the first author, you might take help from somebody as a second author, but the people who are helping you with the data collection and maybe some bit of the regional analysis of the data that they have collected can go to third, fourth, fifth. If that is the sort of study that we are talking about, I think third, fourth, fifth author also will carry significant value in the paper, because without them, you would not have been able to collect the data at all. If it's a smaller paper where we are trying to work within multiple colleges, multiple institutions within a particular region, and there I want to have third, fourth, fifth. One question is, what is the value addition that each person brought into the paper? That many of the journals ask you to declare that in terms of what was your personal contribution as an author in this particular work. That's a good way of identifying how people are adding value to our paper as well. So that would take care of the value addition that is coming and the recognition that is coming in that particular work as well. Other that we'll have to see, sir. I think it depends from the intensity of the work and what it is that we are trying to do, and why have we reached out to so many people to include them as part of paper. It is not uncommon to find a natural sciences multiple authors. Generally, in social sciences and management disciplines, 3 authors, 4 authors is like the maximum that I have come across so far. Very rarely I come across numbers beyond that. Because with each person that is getting added, the value addition or the contribution keeps going down. So that would become the perception. I would look at it from the idea of not denying somebody authorship, but really stating it explicitly, transparently. How has each person contributed to your work and therefore is a part of that particular research? I hope that answers the question.
There are 2 queries, sir. First one, please show SAR part for Charam 2 journals from Vijay.
Right. Vijayashree ma'am is requesting to show the STR part for HRM journals. Okay, let's do that. And also a follow-up question, how valuable is it if you go for paid Q1 journals? When you say paid Q1 journals, are you looking at the journal coming from the STR ranking? Or are you looking at this idea of payment coming from the journal's landing page? This is a journal page. As an example, I'm showing you, this is a journal page. If this is a journal landing page where you are saying that this is a Q1 journal and you are expected to pay 5K or 10K for publishing in this, go back and check in SJR whether it actually has a standing or not. The reference for us is only coming to scientific journal rankings, which is done by Schimago. So here is your Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. If you look at the SJR, it shows you Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 part. This is listed for 31,136 journals across all disciplines across the globe. We are only going to filter it out by the specific discipline that we are looking at. And let's say organization behavior, human resource management. You still have 240 journals to play with across all the countries and regions. And you will be able to see this list, which says Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 part. And this is the journal ranking or the score that has been generated for each of these journals on the basis of how Schimago is looking at the journal ranking mechanism. You want to further narrow it down to specific regions, you can look at it. You want to look at any specific country, you can look at it. So let's just say I want to look at only Indian journals. I've got 3 journals which make it to this list under organizational behavior and human resource management. One in Q2, one in Q3, one in Q4, which means none of my Indian journals are even in the first quartile at all. It's not bad to publish in Q3 or Q4 as such. For one, I know the Journal of Human Values is a really, really good journal, and it's not very easy to publish in this particular journal also. But this is where we stand in terms of the global ranking if we were to look at. So this could be your 3 journals if you're looking at a purely Indian context based study and you want to publish in a good journal, you can filter it out in this manner and then arrive at your list and try and target. So I want to see how do I publish in Journal of Human Values? What do they actually publish on? One, I understand it's by Sage Publisher. It has got an H index of 20. Its coverage is still active. And then if we go to the home page, this is Journal of Human Values homepage. Its impact factor is low. Maybe that's why it is getting ranked at a lower level. You would find that this journal is a member of Committee of Publication Ethics. This is again something that you can derive a little more confidence from, saying that if it is indexed or if it is a part of this scope list, then it's probably a good journal for me to go ahead and publish in. You can come and look at the journal overview and metrics. So you see that the acceptance rate is about 10.5%. So in 100 articles, they are probably accepting only about 10 articles. Then there is a call for papers available, which, okay, this is an old one. They have not updated this part. You can look at a lot of the information. So what is the aim and scope of this journal? So it is a peer-reviewed tri-annual journal, which means that they are looking at publishing only once in 3 years or maybe 3 times in a year of sorts. Right, and the metrics. So you have got your citation reports, past 2 years, past 5 years. How has this journal been doing? The citation indicator. They're indexing in Scopus. So if they are having a Scopus indexing happening, then they're also declaring your site score as well as your SJR. So under philosophy, this journal is publishing in all of these areas. And under each of these disciplines, when it accepts an article, its articles under philosophy, out of 739 attracts journals in philosophy, this particular journal ranks at 229th position. Same with social psychology, 241 out of 303. So for your specific area, you can go back and see where is this journal standing for your specific area. This outrightly also tells you that this is an interdisciplinary journal because it's able to publish across disciplines. So that's an overview of what you can get just from looking at the landing page of the journal. This is again from Sage. You can go to the journal's homepage and you might be able to see something else over here when you come to this. Does that answer your question, ma'am? Is that what you were looking for? Okay. With respect to the idea of how valuable is it if you were to go for a paid Q1 journal, see whether there is an absolute necessity for you to pay, because from whatever good journals that I come across, it's an extremely expensive affair. So I am not really sure what is a great value addition for us in terms of paying at this point. If your institution is willing to sponsor, please go ahead and consider it. Getting a publication in a Q1 journal makes a lot of sense with or without payment in itself. It definitely boosts your standing as a researcher. But it's not easy because even when journals charge you money for publishing, they still do the double-blind peer review. They will only accept money if your article is going to get accepted for publication. If your article is not getting accepted for publication, there's no question of paying a certain amount and getting it published anyway. That does not happen with these legitimate journals. The publication process remains the same. Your submission of manuscript, editorial review, the double-blind peer review, if that works, if that is what the journal is following. And then you have your revision and resubmission. That goes through one more clearing process with the journal. And lastly, the acceptance letter from the editor saying that your article has now been accepted for publication, which in itself could take another 1, 2, or 3 years, depending on how good your journal is and how many articles they have in pipeline. In case it gets accepted, if the journal is seeking an article publication charge, then alone they will be communicating to you what is the amount that you are required to pay and how much it is and why it is so. Until then, they won't ask you for money anyway. So any journal that is upfront asking you money for it, please recheck. Recheck in multiple sources whether it's actually a legitimate journal or not. Look at the claims on their homepage. They would put it up somewhere saying that this particular journal is indexed in Scopus. Just go to the Scopus database and try to search for the link. You will, if you find it good, look at the coverage. If you find it good, so it's at least having some standing. There is some truth to what the person is claiming. That's how I would look at the entire process.
Dear participants, in the doubt,
You're welcome.
thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your analytical, sir. So we explored how to identify the journals again, how to match the journals with a specific topic. And thank you so much. And, now I request Jansi madam to give vote of
Thank you so much, Srinivas sir. Hope I'm audible.
your audible.
Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed faculties and dear participants, first of all, I would like to extend my heartfelt vote of thanks to our esteemed speaker, Dr. Pranav Umesh, for today's enlightening session on journals and publications. Your insightful presentation has provided us with valuable knowledge and practical tips on navigating the world of academic publishing. Thank you so much for that, sir. Your expertise and experience have been truly inspiring, and we are grateful for the time out of your busy schedule for sharing us your wisdom with us. Thank you so much, and hope to see you again joining us with more programs. Thank you so much, sir. And last but never the least, thank you all the participants for that interactive session today, and hope to see you all again tomorrow at 2 p.m. for a more interesting session of our final FTP program. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you. Thank you.